So they were the distributor and the provider of energy. So now they're just distributing, and the supplier is now a clean energy solution.
Hi, I'm Louisa, and this is Any Job Can Be a Climate Job, a show about everyday people using their work to save the world. Today's story is about a short animated video and how it helped pass a major clean energy policy in Springfield, Massachusetts. I interviewed Samantha Hamilton, Director of Coalition Building at the Public Health Institute of Western Massachusetts, and Kathryn Taccone, co-founder of Open Pixel Studios. You'll hear how they used community feedback and clever storytelling and turned it into something powerful and passable. Their work mobilized the community. It swayed city council, and it proved that creative clarity can drive climate impact. We'll start with Kathryn. Kathryn, I'd love to hear from you. What brought you into climate storytelling, and what's your background?
Yeah, I think I had always been potentially interested in climate and just being aware of it, but not to a point where I didn't necessarily do anything about it, or I didn't know that I could do something about it. It was unexpected because this was our first opportunity to inform policy at a local level that I didn't realize was possible with animation. It wasn't something that came to mind. We were mostly in the sort of commercial advertising space. So we understood marketing and we understood messaging, but at the local level, we hadn't had that chance yet to explore. So this project became a really big, deep dive for me into climate policy that can lead to a global movement.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. And so you're coming from this large number of projects down to, you came to two. And the ultimate goal, can you say that in one sentence, of the problem you were trying to solve?
Yes. So as the Director of Coalition Building, we work on projects around climate change, housing, and so forth. So one of the initiatives was a climate change, health, and equity initiative. And we work with community residents to kind of narrow down out of the climate action plan that the city has, around 156 strategies on how to address climate issues. So we did a whole iterative narrowing exercise and process and get community feedback. But once we landed on the community choice energy, the next big question to us was, one, how do you explain such a complex strategy to the broader community so that they can have buy-in? I call it this accordion effect. Once you decide, you unravel some more. Okay, now we've gotten to this point. What does this mean?
So Samantha, when did you realize that you needed a different kind of communication? I imagine your team has been pushing policies like this through approval layers and trying to influence and implement before. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looked like and what it meant to bring in animation?
As we evolve with technology, with social media, with messaging, that people are now everywhere. They're not just in a community room waiting for us or us looking to gather them. They are literally on social media. They're getting their information through different modalities and different tools. So we could not just be general and say a flyer is going to change the world. I can't put a flyer or an infographic to explain why this was going to work. And we believe that even with animation or with a video medium, we can get to a broader audience. We could use that to put it up on YouTube, see the folks that visit it, use it in our presentation, but it's clear and concise. It really filters out what we are trying to say. We're a presentation where you have to go back and say, or forgot to say that we really became clear and concise is what is the message for this animation that we want to get across. So it's kind of again, my biggest reason was we have to be with the times, that you can't bring people together in just a physical space. You have to find them in other spaces, reach them. And animation and video media production is one way that we can reach people. And again, if it's clear enough, they would tack onto it and support.
Even within this one issue or topic that we're talking about, there were 150 different points that we could address, right? And so when we're having a goal of the video needs to be short, it needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, how do you distill that information in a way that makes sense and meets an audience where they're at? So in animation, the process always begins at writing. It starts with the script. Yeah. And so that script really required a lot of time and care. It took, I think, at least like 5 different versions and 3 teams of people, like our internal team, the staff at Public Health Institute, the board, the coalition involved. So we all had like potentially different objectives that we were trying to put into this video. And I thought it'd actually be helpful to kind of share like what the messaging sounded like from the very first line of our script in version 1 to version 5, because I think it helps to kind of disseminate like this is where we were thinking. So
Oh, I love that.
right. So the very first version, I'm just going to read the first sentence of both versions of the script here. So the first one was, currently, if you're a Springfield resident, your energy supplier operates as a private monopoly. So this sentence doesn't necessarily get people involved. It doesn't necessarily lead to action. It doesn't necessarily lead to impact. And in a way, it almost is like attacking the people that we actually need to work with and get help from. So so we went back through in a lot of iterations. That's why this was such a team effort, and I really appreciated everybody's input here, because we realized that the message has to be directly to the audience. We have to meet them where they're at. They have to understand the impact right away. So 5 versions later, we get to, every time you use energy to turn on your lights, you directly impact our climate and the health and well-being of your family. Now, it could come across as like there's a little bit of urgency within there, because there has to be. Climate is an urgent issue, but not in a way that fear mongers. It's one of those ideas where you're trying to lead people to curiosity and engagement, rather than this idea of like, oh, there's an enemy and we have to beat them and we have to do like it. I think a lot of people in the climate space know that this is a collaborative, holistic, inclusive effort. But that means we have to address that to the community directly and clearly. So yeah, you can kind of see like how different it shifted between the 2 sentences and where that then continued the journey from there.
So after all the coalition building, all the script rewrites, they led to this. After months of refining the messaging, gathering the feedback, and reworking the visuals, the team landed on a final version of the animation. This is the video they showed to Springfield City Council, the one that helped get Community Choice Energy passed. If you're listening, you're going to hear the full audio from that video, and if you're watching, you'll see the visuals that brought it to life.
Every time you use energy to turn on your lights, you directly impact our climate and the health and well-being of your family. That's because, as a Springfield resident, your energy supplier currently only provides the 20% renewable energy required by the state. But we have an opportunity, with the flick of a switch, to make it 100% clean and renewable now with Community Choice Energy. Community Choice Energy, or CCE, is a program that allows all of Springfield collectively to require and buy 100% clean, renewable energy, allowing us to combat climate change, advance racial equity, and improve our public health. So, how do you benefit from CCE? First, you'll be directly combating climate change. By switching to Community Choice Energy, you will no longer be tapping into pollutants like fossil fuels. This will help reduce environmental impacts like tornadoes, ice storms, and heat waves. Second, you'll be advancing racial equity, because you'll be allowing everyone to help our environment. Everyone will be tapping directly into 100% renewable energy, making it accessible to all. Lastly, you'll improve the public health of future families living in Springfield. Community Choice Energy will allow everyone to switch simultaneously now, taking a direct shortcut to better, cleaner energy for your family's future health. So what can you do? Right now, we need your input and your voice to help us spread the word about Community Choice Energy. Community Choice Energy is possible, but it requires all of us to take a stand together. Visit livewellspringfield.org/CCE to see what it can do for your community.
And that's the power of creative clarity. One short video, one big policy win. That was the animation that helped sway a city council vote and set a new precedent for storytelling in local climate policy.
So you got it all approved. The animation was shown. What was the impact of that?
Yeah, so City Council, we did a subcommittee pitch for their climate subcommittee, and then we did a full City Council pitch, show the video, unanimously approved that the city should push this forward. And their feedback was, I learned something. This video is super informative and helpful. Other cities and towns working on community choice energy have used our videos to explain how Springfield is doing it. And they were actually leading in some spaces where we were following, get this done. Then the mayor pushed it forward to get an energy aggregator, and the RFP was created. So going forward now into this new year, they've already put in their application to the Department of Public Utilities to get community choice energy for Springfield, and it's been approved. So I'm checking the boxes. I'm explaining why this process did work. So it's approved. And now they're going to go back into the community and do a community-wide campaign to build awareness that this is coming to each and every neighbor. It's an opt-out program. So you will all be automatically opt in, and you will choose to opt out. And so if you want to go back, you can. And once that's in place, you can kind of gauge where your utilities are at, electric bill is at, and then decide if you want to opt out. Our energy provider does not change. So regarding Kathryn's point on, we can't talk about the monopoly adversary because they're still going to be the ones that we have to work with. So if we're going to try to get rid of our energy provider in this narrative, it would not have worked. We just know that they are sourcing it from a clean energy, and it takes them out. So they were the distributor and the provider of energy. So now they're just distributing, and the supplier is now a clean energy solution. So all that to say, this has evolved through these wins, let's get this win first, this rippling effect. Our work has been highlighted by our funders. So the Kresge Foundation has uplifted us through our conferences. So Kathryn mentioned she's gone to conferences. So the conferences that we go to, they're putting the video and saying, oh, this is an example of the work in Springfield around community choice energy. And our climate folks are saying, wow, that really helped me understand something I didn't know how to explain. And we have those wins.
So it sounds like it was like really effective. Obviously, you have all of these wins. But I understand it also you think it saved time? Like, how long do you think this initiative would have taken without this animation?
I think it would be hard. It'd be me trying to do town halls after town halls. I think me ignoring that social media is a vehicle. So it allowed us to reach more people. It allowed us to target. Even with messaging, we had to frame it for the receiver, for the city council folks, for the mayor folks to buy into. So it probably saved us. I don't even quantify the time, but efficiency and conciseness is so important. Like, how can we be concise, clear? And at this point, I can show the video now, and anybody can know why we're doing it, what it's about, and why it's important to support. So it definitely saved us a lot of time and thinking.
Yeah, probably something that might have taken like a couple of years down to
slower process of getting buy-in, and a more physical interface than you need to. So it's added value.
Your team already has more than enough on your plate. Yeah.
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 I would encourage anybody get into this to think about, like, there's more than one messaging medium that you can use.
And I'm curious, as you're getting that feedback, are you? I mean, is this one of those things where everything launches on the same day and you're like, cool, let's go out? Or are you getting feedback from the audience or like you said you were doing tabling, and are you adjusting your strategies as you hear from the public?
It's definitely an adjusting as we go. I am driven by the advisory committee. So their feedback and input is super important for us to move stuff along. So if we get to a place that we're stuck or we need to learn more, that's where we take the time to do the Flexing Civic Muscle workshop, because we needed to understand for ourselves. So how do you go tell your neighbor about something if you're not quite sure what it means to you? So we spent a lot of time doing that for them to help us then think about, well, how would you want us to tell your neighbor?
That's great. Yeah. I feel like the theme I keep hearing is that any kind of project, whether it be government or otherwise, that's built in collaboration with the community versus like enforced on the community is just going to be so much more obviously authentic and welcomed and just feel more like a we're all in it together kind of effort.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely a collaborative process.
And what about some of the challenges? Everything we've been talking about feels like it's, it all worked out pretty well and was pretty smooth. Where were some of the hiccups and, what learnings from this process?
On my side, and I'll let Kathryn explain. On my side, they're all about timing. I think there was times where OpenPixel was ready to move on, but we didn't have our meeting yet. Or I said to say, let me buffer. I need to go back to the advisory committee before we decide. Could you give us another week? And there was flexibility there, so it wasn't like a harsh, hard feeling. So that was happening. I don't feel like there was like a significant challenge if the space is made for feedback. Like you have to welcome it. If it wasn't, if it was what Samantha wanted, if Samantha was totally in control, she would not listen and not brought back feedback and just held it. And then the final product would have been not owned by the community. So I think it's more about how we facilitated a process that if there were any hiccups, I don't even know if Kathryn, you felt any that it was, but timing was the only other thing that we had to work with but we got the grace and flexibility to say, no problem. Let us know. I'd rather have had that feedback before we moved on, because then again, we cannot double back. As much as I was stressing that for everyone, it was like, this is a process where we keep going.
I think maybe one of the challenges I can think of is, especially with any communication project that requires so many different voices, is making sure that it doesn't feel too much like a too many cooks in the kitchen situation. So understanding like that, we're here to be able to serve as like educators through the animation process and say those things like, hey, at this point, it might be in our best interest to have the community's input. Because if we're already at the animation stage and the community doesn't have their voice in at the script, then we might have to double back and go all the way through again. So it was understanding the importance and the significance of each role that had to be served within the production, and then aligning that with like, okay, if we do need the community's input at this point, like, let's make sure to give it that time and space that it deserves. And if we need to move forward, then we can help adjust deadlines and things of that nature. But yeah, I think that came from like communicating right at the beginning of the project, like, who's going to be the main point of contact, so 30 people don't get emailed all at the same time. Because the too many cooks in the situation, we've definitely dealt with it before, and wanted to make sure that like everyone still gets the chance to have their voice and they still get the choice to be heard, and that space and that grace to be heard. But then knowing like also kind of taking back this idea of like, are you inputting your feedback because you're like, this is just a color you don't like, or are you implementing your feedback that's like serving the greater purpose of, remembering our goal overall, which is getting the message out clearly and effectively. So trying to eliminate that sort of like internal subjective feedback that can come with art for sure required some communication through that. But I think everyone did an amazing job at it. And I think it was like overall, every time we got feedback, we were like, yep, that makes sense. Yep, that's clear. Like, yes, we understand. Like, let's do it. And it just had more of a like invigorating feeling rather than like, oh no, we got to change everything. Like,
I mean, that's really special that you were able to get that, because I've worked on a number of design projects, and with something like design, it can feel very subjective. And so, a lot of people have a lot of opinions, like you mentioned, about the color of something or anything. And so I get the timing and the timelines and making sure that we, if we make it past this point, we're not going to revisit it, and being clear about that. But how did you keep, and I really like what you said also about making sure that, the feedback is for the greater good and for the goals we're trying to hit. Do you have any tips for listeners who might be trying to push similar kind of design projects forward to help keep everybody on track and make it go as smoothly as it went with your two groups?
I would say on the creative side, for anybody that's interested in doing more advocacy work and climate work, that you do not have to be an expert in climate in order to help get the message across or be part of the team. I think the only thing you really need to understand is sort of how visuals drive emotion in a way that leads to action, right? There are many times that we'll view animation as a form of entertainment, which is wonderful, but that might not lead you to then like go call your representative. So there is an art form and a strategy to that piece that I think can be really helpful. So learning about how that connection is made and how you can translate, complex ideas into simple narratives can go a long way. But that doesn't mean that you have to be an expert in any subject that might be coming your way. Like that's within yourself. You're like, oh, okay, here are the subject experts. They're going to help explain this to me and I'm going to help them get their message across. So I think it's also a matter of like respecting the roles that each person is serving and how it's going to, again, help for the greater good.
And I'll add on the convening and facilitating side, it's I think the point that you made earlier is like, are we listening? Our feedback's incorporated. And I think once folks saw that throughout the whole process, from script to voice to images to the initial illustration, that they had a say in how it looked, and grounding folks on it's not your preference, but the cause that we're looking at. People really step back. So they trusted that process to see that it wasn't just, I asked for this and nobody listened. It was like, oh, they really did.
You're like completing that feedback loop and showing them. And how can folks get in touch with you if they want to learn more or follow your work?
Yeah, so Live Well Springfield is our coalition, and also our website where we host most of our work, working on housing issues. We are applying for a new grant for this climate change work going forward, to continue advocating for community choice energy. As much as we've had the wins for the 5 years that we did, there's still more in getting to that final peak of that mountain peak to say, yes, you can, but the milestones are being felt. So we're continuing to do that. So livewellspringfield.org is our website, or Public Health Institute of Western Mass. Public Health WM has all of our coalition work from healthy air work. We're working on we do air sensor work, but we're working on an app. So we're working in the tech space, making apps for air monitoring and also advocating for policies around like free transit and, all that stuff. So Public Health Institute, WM.org or livewellspringfield.org.
And we'll put that all in the show notes too. Thank you. How about you, Kathryn?
That's awesome. So easiest way to reach me is through LinkedIn. I'm probably the most active on there. My company is Open Pixel Studios, just openpixelstudios.com. You can do anything. Go on social media. It's all the same. We're pretty easy and pretty reachable. And we love having communications and just hopping on calls. So you should be able to find a link to hop on a call if you ever want to. So yeah.
Great. And then any last advice for people who feel like they might just be just one person but want to make a difference?
I would say don't be afraid to, like, you have the opportunity in that moment to become a coalition builder. If you're the only one or you think you're the only one, ask around and say, hey, is anyone else interested in this? I didn't realize until we went through this project how many people in our community were actually interested and engaged in climate work. And it really just opened a door to be like, oh, I want to be part of these community spaces now. I want to see more of what's happening, because you're really not alone in that. I know, like, a lot of times a lot of climate work can feel very siloed, and there's so many different sectors within climate. There's so much there, but like, if you find that one person who just is on the same page and wants to do work together, like, you can go miles with that. You can really go far. So I think there's something about just not being afraid to take that first leap of like finding somebody else who's out there, because they are. Even if they're not like directly in your local community, there might be somebody adjacent. There might be somebody across the country or, all over the world that are interested in the same thing, that want to help solve these problems together. So yeah, find that group.
You're giving me goosebumps. I love it.
You don't have to be the expert. You don't. And we had the support of technical assistance experts to help us understand things and explain it so we can all get up to speed and feel comfortable in whatever we're saying. So now I can speak to it as if it seems as I've been doing this like my whole career, but I have not. And I think the false belief is that you have to be an expert to get started. You just have to be curious, and curiosity gives you everything else you need. And those people, like Kathryn said, will come along and join you and said, hey, I care about that too. Let's talk more.
Yeah. Likewise, I'm grateful for the expertise that everyone provided and just got us thinking a little bit differently about climate in general, because I think it led to I just finished a 12-week fellowship program through Terra.do, and I think as artists we tend to get lost in the sauce a little bit about our own creativity and just like focusing on the artwork. But now it's led to this whole thing of like, wait, I want to learn more about the subject. I want to dive more into like all of these different topics that can lead to me taking action, not just at the animation level. Now I'm not afraid to go like testify or go to a hearing or go do something that requires a little more action. So yeah, there's like a comfort zone that we all get out of, I think, through the process of working on any type of marketing materials, because I think it demystifies a little bit of this sort of like unapproachability maybe of legislators, and there's so much that that can come from just doing one type of project. And I'll just add a quick note to that like I don't even think I think it's worth having projects that are not just a one and done experience, right? Like this was a terrific outcome and a terrific effort that we've all had. But now this has also led to, how can this be replicated in other places? So we're taking this video and this sort of use case that we experienced here and explaining that and going to other climate conferences to talk about how this came about and how we can how you and your town could replicate this kind of idea to help build the momentum towards a bigger movement. So there's a lot of different ways that all of this can be expanded out. So it's not just this one project was wonderful, but it led to so much more.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that advice from both of you. And, nobody's an expert in everything at the beginning. And whatever you have done in your life, whatever your journey has been, gives you a unique perspective and a unique way to contribute to whatever the path is forward. And so, I love it. Just take that step, find people who are interested in the same things and figure out what you can do. Well, Kathryn, Samantha, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really think this is going to inspire people and give them a lot of ideas and actions they can take in their jobs. So really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And thank you for the work that you're doing, because I think I do think it's really wonderful to hear so many different perspectives on how people are working in climate, even though they might not think they are. I commend you for the work you're doing as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you for having us.
Well, that's it for today's episode. A powerful example of how storytelling can shape policy and how creative work can drive climate action. And if you're wondering what your own climate path might look like, check out Climate Swings, a podcast about people from all kinds of careers, from finance to academia, who found their way into meaningful climate jobs. You can find it wherever you listen or on YouTube at Climate Swings Pod. And remember, if animation can help pass a clean energy law, then your skills can make a difference too. Any job can be a climate job. I'll talk to you next time.